Yeah.
What advice do you have for younger aspiring writers, maybe high school age, to a career journalist in their experience?
Only do it if you have to. And if you have to, I can't think of a better thing to do. I mean, I really love my work. I can't believe I get to do it. I can't believe I get to write about what I care about and get it published. And I love writing. But I would also say you need to do it. You have to have the feeling you need to do it because there's no justice. I've had success recently, but I have friends who are as good, if not 10 times better than me, who can't make any money from writing. And since I've been successful, I've gotten to know writers, sorry to use this phrase, who are just total bullshit artists. I know who they steal from. I know how lazy and sloppy. They have very famous names. I have no respect for them. So there's no correlation between talent and success. So if you're seeking the success, you may have a problem. But if you enjoy the work for itself, then you got to do it. But that's the best I can offer. Yeah.
Do you believe that we use the court system for litigating to counteract the it seems that you mock people to because they say they expect, but it seems that you're using tools that the cigarette industry uses. It seems like we're simple.
That's a really good question. And the question was about, can we use litigation to change this industry and its practices the way that litigation was used to expose the lies of the tobacco industry? Well, there have been a number of fast food lawsuits, and I've been approached by the attorneys for each one of them. And I've been approached, not for each one, but I've been approached by a number of attorneys to serve as an expert witness. And I've chosen to not have anything to do with those lawsuits. There's a large amount of money involved. And I'm really critical of the fast food industry, but I'm also very libertarian, and I think that adults need to take responsibility for their own actions, and they should be allowed to buy triple cheeseburgers with bacon in the same way they should be able to drink or smoke tobacco or smoke a joint. But it's different with children. And if there was a good lawsuit by some place like the Children's Defense Fund, which is a great nonprofit, and that lawsuit was to target the fast food chains and how they market to kids, and part of that lawsuit might involve a discovery process in which we could look at some of the documents about what goes into those children meals, and particularly a few years ago, Burger King and McDonald's both increased the portion sizes in some of their children's meals, using the unfortunate name of the Mighty Kids meal, but also the Big Kids meal. Not a good name for it. I would support that lawsuit enormously. I'd do anything I could to help, because I think that how companies market to children is fundamentally different from how they market to adults. It must be different. So, in theory, yes, a good lawsuit could be filed, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
I'm interested in the way that the book industry produces bestsellers. Your book is a bestseller,
Yeah.
it's now a film. Why do you think your book is a bestseller?
I don't know. Well, my book was turned down by all the New York publishing houses, all the big New York publishing houses. And my book was published by Houghton Mifflin, which is one of the last independent publishing houses based in Boston. And they were terrific. They gave me enough money to work on it for a couple of years. They never asked me to tone it down. There were all kinds of potential huge legal problems, and they stood behind me 100%. But they had no expectation that it was going to be a bestseller. And the best explanation, well, there's two explanations for why it became a bestseller. One is that when my book came out, there were still a lot of independent bookstores. And my book was read by people who owned independent bookstores who really encouraged their readers to buy it. And people at NPR read the book. So I had a lot of support from independent bookstores and NPR, but there wasn't really a big marketing campaign. I mean, it wasn't promoted like a bestseller or anything like that. It was more of a word-of-mouth kind of bestseller. Why? I don't know. It came out in January of 2001, and George W. Bush had just taken power, and my book seemed to offer a critique of what was happening in America. Mad cow disease was in the news. In England, not that long after, there was an outbreak of hoof and mouth disease, so people were starting to wonder about the food supply. I don't know. But there are much better books than mine that are not bestsellers. And there are books a hell of a lot worse than mine that are bestsellers. I can't explain it to you. I can tell you that it is now more difficult for someone like myself to break through 6 years later than it was when I did. The book business is even more centralized. There are even fewer publishers. There are even fewer independent bookstores. And I feel very, very fortunate that my book, somehow broke through when it did, because it might be more difficult